everyone, my name is Reggie and welcome to my channel. Today I'm really excited to be sharing with you my May wrap-up. In May I read a various amount of books. I think I read 12 books. I read a high fantasy, I read a graphic novel, I read nonfiction, I read all kinds of different things. I also rated most of them positively, which is great. If you're new to my channel and you haven't done so already, I highly recommend subscribing to my channel, giving this video a thumbs up if you liked it, hitting that bell notification if you want to know when I post new videos, all that fun stuff, you know the deal. So the first one I want to talk to you about is my least favorite of the month, but it is Sky in the Deep by Adrian Young. This is the story of a young girl who is in this Viking-inspired fantasy world, and she is on the battlefield when this book opens, and she is fighting their enemy, and she sees her brother fighting alongside their enemies. What makes this even weirder is that her brother is dead. So like, how did that happen? This book just didn't take the turns I wanted it to, didn't take that synopsis in the direction I thought it was going to. There's a quite logical explanation to why her brother was doing that and what was happening with that. I thought this was going to take a more mystical path, and it didn't. So that was a little disappointing just because the conceit wasn't what I thought it was. And I think going into a book, your expectations completely tarnish or improve. Tarnish has a negative connotation, but they completely affect how you read a book and how you feel about it. And for me, my expectations led me to hope this would be something else, and it wasn't that. I also just didn't really like the characters or their dynamics with each other. The world was kind of boring, and this is a series that I don't really care. Have no desires to read the next book. I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. That being said, I definitely think there's a market for this book. I definitely think a lot of people would love this book. So if you're interested in this book, don't be persuaded away from this book from my perspective, especially because it wasn't like the writing, there was nothing like super problematic about this book that I found. I just didn't mesh with it and the story it was telling, so it wasn't for me, but it might be for you. Next we have Almost Midnight by Rainbow Rowell. This is a short story collection. It has 2 short stories in it. The first one is called, I don't remember. The first one is called Midnight, the second one is called Kindred Spirit. So Midnight follows a young girl and this boy that is her best friend. It follows them every New Year's, and it's just their story over years during this one night. And the second story is called Kindred Spirits. It's about a girl who is standing in line for the new Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens, when it came out, and it's just about her line experience in Star Wars and fan culture and friendships and things like that. Midnights was already published in that Christmas anthology. I'll put a picture of it here because I don't know what it's called, or I just can't remember what it's called at least. But I've already read it because it was in that. I did choose to reread it while I read it in this bind-up, and I had never read Kindred Spirits before. I didn't really rate either individually, but I gave the collection as a whole 3.5 stars. I enjoyed my time reading it. I had really fun reading it, but like neither of these short stories really stood out to me. If you can get your hands on this collection for free, definitely think it's worth reading. It's fun, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend spending money on this or going out and buying this unless you're really into Rainbow Rowell, you're really into short stories, or you read the first one, really want to own it. Then I do think the Kindred Spirits short story is a little bit better than Midnight's. But it totally also depends on what you want out of stories. The first one's more of a romance, the second one's more of like an experience story. I really like experience stories, so I think that's probably why I liked Kindred Spirits more. Next up, I read Lock and Key, Heaven and Earth. This is a short side story in the Lock and Key series. This is written by Joe Hill, illustrated by Gabrielle Rodriguez. If you don't know, Lock and Key is my all-time favorite graphic novel series. Like, it's so good. To me, I like it more than Saga, which is an unpopular opinion, but I love it. It is like a gothic horror type story about this family who lives in the Lock House, and it's a mansion where keys open doors and do mysterious things. So this isn't following that main story plot. This is a side story set in the past from like other families that lived in this house before them. So actually the thing is, I had already read both of these, but they were rebound in this new graphic novel, and I didn't know that. So I was super disappointed going in because I had already read both of these, but I love Lock and Key stories so much that I did choose to read these again in this format because, I mean, rereading's never bad, especially something that's your favorite. But because I reread it, I don't even know what I rated these both the first time, and they were in a collection with other things, so those other things could have affected my rating of it too. I gave this collection a 4 out of 5 stars. Enjoyed both of those stories. I think they are great, emotional, fun. One's really emotional, one's pretty badass. They're totally, completely different in tone, but I do enjoy pretty much everything set in this world. It's fantastic. If you haven't read the original Lock and Key graphic novel series, I recommend those. Start there. If you love it as much, you can continue on to the side graphic novels like this one, but definitely don't start here. You will be confused and disappointed. Next up, I read Again But Better by Christine Riccio. What a lot of us can identify and relate to is that we watched Christine's journey writing this book and revising this book and getting this book published. And so it's hard to go into a book with a person who, one, you know, to also have seen their experience so openly, vulnerably, so firsthand in a way. So it's hard to not feel connected to this book and like you're kind of invested in it. Maybe that's just me, but I don't think it is. Whether you like Christine's videos or not, it's very clear to see this as a self-insert character. Shane, our main character in this book, goes to study abroad in London. She's doing this because she didn't have a great time in college. She's, I think, in her 3rd year, and she's realizing that she didn't do a lot of the things she wanted to do. She didn't have the experiences she wanted to have, and so by going to study abroad, she's hoping to kind of start fresh. But even in study abroad, things don't go as Shane plans. And there's a romance in here. Some people say it's problematic, some people say it's not problematic at all. I see both sides to it. I lean towards the non-problematic side. I don't think this book glorifies cheating. I don't think it glorifies unhealthy relationship concepts. However, we don't see anything from the main male character's perspective. He's the one in a relationship. And since we don't see his perspective, we don't know what's going on in his head. It's hard to say how much emotional cheating he may have been doing. Shane, however, in my opinion, never acts on any of her emotions. At one point, she does lay it out for him and say, if we're going to do anything, you have to be single. And in doing that and in the way she did that, maybe was pushing him to a thing he wasn't really interested in. That's the only troubling part of this to me. Should that have happened that way? Maybe not. My point is, I see why people would have issues with this. However, I didn't. I mentioned earlier in this mini review that Shane is a completely self-insert character. She is. I think some people are going too far in saying this book is like Christine's life, basically, and it kind of annoys me. It's clearly, Shane is 100% a self-insert character, but this is not Christine's autobiography. This is clearly fiction. Anyways, I really enjoyed this. I know a lot of people didn't. I can see why they didn't. I definitely didn't think I would going into this, honestly. And this goes back to something I said earlier in this video where your expectations really can have a huge hand in how you feel about the book. I didn't think I'd like this at all, and I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Things My Son Needs to Know About the World by Fredrik Backman. This was sent to me unsolicited by Atria Books, and if you don't know, Fredrik Backman is my all-time favorite author. He wrote my all-time favorite book, and I got this in the mail on a day. I wasn't like having a bad day, but I wasn't having a great day. I opened this and I almost cried. This is a parenting-style collection of short essays written by Fredrik Backman, kind of framed to his son about parenting and why he raised him the way he did, and their experiences together, and it's so cute and so heartwarming. If you've ever heard Fredrik Backman speak, which I have been fortunate enough to do so, you'll know that his writing, the way he speaks, completely different. His writing is very deep and thoughtful and methodical, articulate, and serious in a lot of ways. He's very thoughtful and methodical when he's speaking live, but because he's on his feet, he also is a little bit different. And one of the big differences I see in his writing and his speaking is how funny he is. He is so funny, and not in a like comedian way. He says these things that are very insightful but humorous, and I just love how he does that. And I think that kind of tone is so apparent in the way he wrote this nonfiction book. Because it's nonfiction, his writing is completely different than his fiction books. I think that's completely appropriate, makes sense for this, and I think it was so much richer for it because this is so funny. And parenting books can be funny. I'm not a parent unless you call me a dog mom, which is great. But in the traditional sense, and in the actual definition, not a parent, but I am a fan of Fredrik Backman. If you are a parent, definitely think you'll like this. If you're a fan of Fredrik Backman, think you'll like this. If you don't like Fredrik Backman and you're not a parent, maybe not for you. But if you're one of the two, it's for you. And this book is like a warm hug, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. All right, next up we have Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Penborough. And this book, wow. This is an adult thriller, kind of domestic thriller. This is a story about a woman who is a single parent and has like a hookup with this guy at a bar. Not really her style. And she finds out really quickly why that's not her style. Turns out that dude was her boss, and her boss is married. So this is a thriller that's not like a romantic beginning plot point, but I mean, things from that clearly unravel. The way this thriller is built, kind of slow. I love slow thrillers. The ending, holy cow the ending. Blew my mind. This ending is going to be something you either love or hate. I loved it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't really want to tell you more than that because I don't want to ruin the ending. But I love this book. It was fantastic. If you hate the ending, you're going to hate this book. So it's kind of like taking a shot in the dark, but a lot of amazing people have loved this book, so you might too. Next up, I have The Behemoth, Prior of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. It's 820-something pages by my favorite author. Knows everything I dreamed of. How to explain this story is hard. I love this. This is a story of a world in which dragons are a presence, and we follow the East and the West who have different ideologies and thoughts about dragons, how to treat them. Some see dragons as a threat, some see dragons as like a deity. As a large, draconic, possibly source of evil is brewing in this world, we follow different people who live in the East and different people who live in the West, and there are different ideologies about things that are happening, things that are shifting, how everything is kind of playing out with this draconic thing brewing in the world. It's hard to explain, but this deals with queendoms. It has a female-female romance. It is epic and fantastic and has dragons. Amazing female leads who are amazing for various reasons. The characters in this are so fleshed out, almost entirely comprised of women. Yeah, there's a lot happening. There's some mythology systems you have to pick up on. There's like a magic system, kind of. There's so much to it, so it makes sense that it's 820 pages. It also reads very much to me like a Samantha Shannon book in that the world is so expansive, but like once you understand the world, it's like you've lived it all your life. I think the Bone Season books are like that too. Once you read it and it's like confusing, but then like once you know what's happening, everything makes sense. It's like the world you live in. Like, of course you understand these things. Anyways, long story short, I love this book and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think if I reread it and understood everything that I understand now, I would probably give it 5 stars, but it is a lot of pages, so I will do that one day, but probably not anytime soon. Next up, we have Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and wow, did this book impress. I got an e-arc of this from a publisher, which I'm so appreciative of because I loved this book so very much, just like so many people have. It has gotten rave reviews, and for a good reason. This follows our main character, Alex, who is the son of the First Lady. He is 20-something. I don't know his exact age, but he's a 20-something, and he's graduating college. And his mom is a Democratic female president who came out of Texas. So this book is wish fulfillment. Dreams being realized. In a way that's sad, but in a way reading this is also so cathartic and hopeful. Alex, our main character, who has a tiff with the prince. Basically an incident happens between them at the royal wedding and press gets wind of it, of course, because press were there at the royal wedding, and in order to make sure people don't think that there are bad relations between the US and the UK, and the royal family essentially, they have to do a lot of PR to make the bad go away, and while doing so, a romance blooms, and it's beautiful, and Alex is bi, and Henry is gay, and we tackle the dynamics of their relationship in terms of what happens when a prominent person is bi or gay, and how that affects their world, the people around them, especially when they're in a place of visibility and a place of political advantage, and how that kind of affects what they can and cannot do. It's beautiful. It's so multifaceted. It's fantastic. I really want to own a copy. I can't believe I don't already. It is so fantastic. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend you pick it up for Pride in June. It's so good. Well worth your time. 5 out of 5 stars. Next up I have Water Runs Red by Jenna Claire, and holy cow, this is a complete experience. And I don't think anyone could have presented a poetry collection like this other than Jenna. It screams Jenna to me, the way it's put together, the way there's photos intertwined with words, and it's laid out beautifully. A lot of poetry collections will like have hand drawings or small images, but this is like full-on Jenna photography within this book. And things are so stylistically placed and so intricately combined with the words and the points she's putting across. And it's like a really immersive experience. I absolutely love this. It is heartwarming and heart-wrenching. There came a point where I was reading this at work during like a lunch break, and I started crying, and I had to stop reading it because I just couldn't. Yes, I know Jenna. Yes, Jenna and I are friends. I'm actually even in the like Bookturnet Friends part of the acknowledgement section, so I do tell you this, that, you know, kind of like the review of Christine's book, I am biased. I know this person. Not just knowing this person, I am friends with this person, and my opinion of this book is biased. Like, it can't not be. I think it does things that a lot of modern poetry collections don't, especially with the images and how it ties things in all together. But Jenna is also just excellent with words. I also feel like this was a long enough poetry collection that you didn't feel like you got cheated or that things were like brushed over. Yes, I'm biased. Yes, Jenna is my friend, but I also truly believe that this is the best modern poetry book out there and you should read it and give it a go. So obviously 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Little in Line by Brandy Colbert, and oh my, let me just say, I have to read everything Brandy Colbert ever writes ever again because this book was so good. She is one of my new all-time favorite YA contemporary authors. I love her. Let me tell you why. This book is about a mixed family. We have 2 siblings in this, Little and Lion, and Lion is white, Little is black. Little is our female main character that this book is told in perspective. Lion is her stepbrother. Their parents got married. So one of the things we tackle in this book is just how people look at modern or mixed families, and how when they go out together and they say, oh, I'm sibling, people give them looks. Another thing this book tackles very well is mental illness. Lion has bipolar disorder. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder about a year, maybe a year and a half before this book starts. This book has a very healthy look at mental illness, but also a really true and honest depiction of what it's like to live with someone with mental illness and how you worry for them and don't know how to help them and how they feel. I can't put it into words how much this book meant to me and how much I loved it. Another thing that we tackle in this book is Little, who is bi. Basically is told she's caring too much about Lion and is sent off to boarding school because it is affecting her. Her family thinks that she's taking it too personally, too hard in terms of that she's caring for him and putting his welfare above her own. So they send her to boarding school. So while she's there, she has a thing with a girl, and then she comes back for the summer and has feelings for a guy. And so she's questioning what this means for her. It's a discussion of her sexuality and her feeling that out and understanding what that means for her and how she feels about men and women and herself and everything. And I just loved that this book tackled multiple things so important and dynamic without them seeming like that was like the point of this book. I can't express to you how much I love this book. I think it did everything perfectly. Next up, I have The Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a short story collection told in letters. Essentially what happens is a woman finds out her husband is cheating on her because she finds letters he wrote, well, letters that were written to him by another woman. So she sends the other woman's husband a letter saying, hey, I found these letters. Sorry to break the news. Your wife is cheating on you. Do you have the other half of the letters? I would like to see what my husband said to her. And so those two that were cheated on develop a correspondence and discuss how they feel about being cheated on. And it's super emotional, super short, beautifully told. Like I said, told in letters. So good. I was seriously sobbing reading the end of this. It was just so beautiful, so good. I definitely think the ending is not going to be for everyone, but it's so short. Give it a try anyways. I loved it so much. And this was the thing that really solidified for me that I have to read everything Taylor Jenkins Reid has ever written because I love this so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Last up, we have The Test by Sylvia Neuville. If you don't know, Sylvia Neuville is one of my all-time favorite authors. He wrote The Famous Files. It tells the story of a man who goes into a British citizenship test and things just don't go how he thinks they're going to go. Something happens while he's there and it is a ride. Let me just tell you that. This is a short story and it is so good. Packs a punch. I love this. I think it was so good. Definitely the best thing I read this month. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, but like, I don't want to tell you too much about it because I don't want to give anything away. Sylvia Neuville just has a way that makes me think and get excited and really get invested in stories, and I love the way he tells stories, and I love this one so much. Highly recommend. Like I said, 5 out of 5 stars. Best thing I read this month. Highly recommend it. Sorry if I sounded a little weird at the end of this video, or for the second half of this video, I should say. I've been coughing a lot, and so I had to work through that to get to the end of this video, but we've made it. We're at the end. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and you should also comment down below. Let me know if you enjoyed any of these books, if you've read them, what you thought of them, etc. Because I've read so many good books this month, and I'd love to hear what you thought of them if you read them, or if you're interested in reading of them. Which ones? So let's talk about these books in the comments down below. We've made it to the end, so I can sign off and then go cough. I'll get a cough drop, don't worry. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!